Hello, my dear friends. Well, this video is to share with you an interesting update which has come up in GST practically. That is, a new form is now being visible online in the GST portal. That is nothing but form GST PMT 09. One such form which is actually very useful in the practical reality for the purpose of transfer of balance from one account to another account in electronic cash ledger. I repeat again, in electronic cash ledger. This has got nothing to do with credit ledger, but this has got only to do with electronic cash ledger. Let me explain you that in detail so that you exactly understand what is this form all about and how do we use this form and what is the benefit of this form and how to submit this form. Right, let's look at that. So friends, well, first to explain you the concept, let me just take you through the concept of this. Come on, guys. So friends, for example, let's say there is one person known as, for example, let's say there is one person known as Mr. A. Let's say this man is supposed to pay some output tax of, let's say, 100 rupees. And let's say for a second, he has got a balance of 60 rupees in his electronic credit ledger. When 60 rupees balance is there in electronic credit ledger, that he will use it for set off. This fact, we all know that whatever balance we have in credit ledger, we'll use it for set off against our output tax liability. This is a fundamental fact which everybody knows. Now, out of that 100 rupees, when I set off 60 rupees, balance 40, whatever I have to pay, this 40 I will pay using my electronic cash ledger. When I tell you that I will pay using electronic cash ledger, what does that mean? See, electronic cash ledger is like our Paytm balance or any other balance, what we maintain in a separate account. See, basically, what we need to do is that from our account, we need to transfer money into electronic cash ledger, and from there, we use it for a purpose of set off of our liability. Because when we file our GSTR 3B, which is a monthly return, let me repeat, GSTR 3B is a monthly return, but GSTR 1 is not a return as such. GSTR 1 is only a statement of outward supplies, but return is GSTR 3B. Whenever we are filing this GSTR 3B, we actually have to offset our liability, only then we can file 3B. We practically cannot file 3B without paying our taxes. That's impossible. So definitely it is inevitable fact that we need to definitely offset our liability, then only we can file our GSTR 3B. In this context, my dear friends, let me tell you that when I have to pay that 40 rupees, I'll pay that 40 rupees using my electronic cash ledger. Now, how does balance come into this electronic cash ledger? Basically, we will log into our GST portal. When we log into our GST portal, under that, under payments tab, we have an option known as create challan. I repeat again, we have an option known as create challan. Using that, we create a challan, and whenever we open the tab known as create a challan, you will find something called CGST, you will find something called SGST, you will find something called IGST, and you will find one more thing called compensation cess. These four are technically called as major heads. We call them as what heads? Major heads. And under them, again we have something called tax, interest, late fees, penalty, and last column is others column. Under each major head, you have the columns like this, and technically we call them as minor heads. Now the reason I'm telling you this point because without understanding this, you really can't understand the beautiful purpose of form GST PMT 09. Now, whenever, let's say for a second, we have to pay SGST tax of, let's say, 1 lakh rupees. We'll enter here 1 lakh and we'll make the payment. And when we have to make payment, we can pay by NEFT or RTGS. We will pay by internet banking. All that is fine. That we all know. And we can also make payment by taking print of the challan, going to the bank and paying. Technically, we call it as over the counter. But over the counter has got limit of only 10,000. If you have to pay more than 10,000, definitely you have to pay online. You cannot go for over the counter option. You have to go online only. Now, in this context, practically we are seeing so many cases where people are entering this amount in a wrong column and making the payments. See, for example, in this example, we were supposed to pay SGST of 1 lakh, but imagine by mistake, the person enters the amount in CGST. The person enters the amount in CGST of 1 lakh, and let's say he makes the payment. Now, what will happen? Automatically, the balance, instead of staying in SGST account, it will now stay in CGST account. Actually, what was supposed to be paid? SGST. But where did the balance go and sit now? CGST. Where did the balance go and sit now? CGST. So what was supposed to be paid was SGST, but balance went and sat in CGST account. So now you might get one doubt, sir, what difference it makes if it goes to wrong column? I'll take refund. That's okay. Now let me tell you, my dear friends, definitely refund is possible. It is not that refund is not possible, but the point you have to understand is when you enter an amount in wrong column, and make the payment, what you need to do, you have to again pay the correct amount and then claim refund of wrong amount. Is it not a monetary loss? Is it not blocking of funds? And definitely when you apply for refund, refund will come, but it's definitely time taking, no doubt about it. For this reason, government has brought this form known as PMT 09, wherein if you have balance in one major head or one minor head, you can use it for another major head or another minor head. Basically, you can transfer balance from one head of account to another head of account. That's a beautiful form which has been notified online. And let me reiterate the fact, this benefit is only and only for electronic cash ledger, but not for credit ledger. This will actually help a lot, especially for those people who already made a mistake and they have got some balance in cash ledger, but they have not claimed refund so far. You can utilize this form and you can offset your liability. This is going to be very helpful. So friends, to explain you the step-by-step procedure, this is what is basically the form GST PMT 09. And if you observe here, there is a challan for transfer of amount in electronic cash ledger. Let me repeat that word. It is electronic cash ledger. Now, what is PMT 09 and who is allowed to file? It allows a registered taxpayer, obviously, a registered taxpayer to transfer any amount of tax, interest, penalty, etc. that is available in electronic what ledger, friends? Cash ledger, to appropriate tax or cess head under IGST, CGST or SGST in electronic cash ledger. For instance, if a taxpayer has wrongly paid, I repeat that word, wrongly paid SGST instead of CGST, they can now rectify the same by using PMT 09, by reallocating the amount from SGST head to CGST head. And all taxpayers under GST are eligible to file this form. Very beautiful and very practical form, guys. Next, some important points. If the wrong tax has already been utilized, imagine a case already you have utilized that, then this challan is not useful. This challan obviously makes sense for those who paid wrongly and the balance is still lying. This challan only allows shifting of the amounts that are available in cash ledger. Obviously, man, if you already exhausted and utilized it, how can you bring it back? Next, for instance, in case an amount has been wrongly reported in 3B, the rectification of the same is not possible, as GSTR 3B is non-editable. We cannot revise our GSTR 3B. That's not possible at all. Next, amount once utilized and removed from cash ledger cannot be reallocated. That's quite obvious. This point makes sense only for case where the balance is there in the cash ledger. Next, major heads are what? IGST, CGST, SGST. There can also be GST compensation cess. Makes sense, especially for those cases like tobacco products, motor car, where government is charging GST compensation cess, where that amount is being utilized by the government in order to compensate the states who have lost revenue on account of introduction of GST. And minor head refers to what? Tax, interest, penalty, fees, and others. Next, GST PMT 09. Where do you find this? Go to services. Under that, go to ledgers column, and under that, make sure that you go to electronic cash ledger. Quite obvious. And what you have to do now, there, file GST PMT 09 for transfer of amount. And the first table discloses the balance available in cash ledger and the different minor heads. And the second table discloses a preview of the balances in various cash ledger and different minor head after the transfer of balances. I've given a screenshot of all the situations you can see in the next slide. Don't worry. The third table allows us to transfer the available balance in the ledgers amongst various minor heads to the required fields. Save the transfer. Repeat step 4 again if there are more than one balance to be transferred. Check the second table as per step 3 for the balances and file the form when all the required transfers are complete. When all the required transfers are complete, you can go ahead and submit the form. So friends, for more understanding, I've given a screenshot for you to understand what is this figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, figure 4. Figure 1 represents what? That figure 1 represents the original balance in the cash ledger basically. Then figure 2 represents, figure 1 basically represents you need to file your PMT 01 where you will find in electronic cash ledger. And figure 2 represents what is the balances you have. Figure 3 will give details about what is the balances after transfer of balances basically. Cash balance, cash ledger balance, preview of updated balance. You can find that word there. And finally, last column, figure 4 is basically for you to, transfer the balance amongst various minor heads. And then you can submit and file this form. Then with this, you can transfer balance from one account to another account in electronic cash ledger. Highly useful, my dear friends, and definitely, which is a very practical form, which makes a lot of sense. Thank you.